Hello. It has been quite a minute since I've done a video for the YouTube. But school time is coming up in New Orleans, and I understand that New Orleans is quite a tricky place when you have kids and you're trying to decide where to send them to school, and that makes moving to New Orleans complicated and a little bit confusing sometimes. I recently made the jump from having my children in private school for their whole lives and making the switch to public school, and it was a lot to figure out. We have a very unique system here, and so I felt like I would make a video for those considering getting into the New Orleans school system or moving to our area. This could be very helpful. And so we don't necessarily have a New Orleans school district here where there's a school board and it runs the entire gamut of public schools in our city. We are on a charter school system, which basically means that the majority of the schools are their own island, I guess. They have their own boards. There is a governing school board for the city that allocates funds and purchases buildings and stuff like that. I'm minimizing their contributions quite a bit, but every school itself has their own school board, their own system of getting in. So I figured I would make this as easy as possible. These are the steps that I took, and I was very nervous. I'd never had to do this before. When I grew up, I went to just our public schools. It was no big deal. That's just where you went. So we have a website, and it's NOLA Public Schools, and the website is enrollnolaps.com. I'll put that in the comments of this video. But the schools are somewhat determined by location, but again, it's not normal where you live within a zip code or a certain boundary and you're automatically enrolled into the school that is around there. We have a lottery system, so you essentially, do your research on all of the public schools. Definitely, if you know what neighborhood you're going to be moving to, that's a good place to start. So if you're moving to, say, Lakeview, Hines might be a great school for you to check out. Or if you're moving uptown, Willow is a great school. Audubon Charter is a great school for you to check out. So definitely does sort of depend on where you are if you care about that, if you care about location with respect to how far you want to drive for school, or you could just have certain goals and characteristics of a school that you're looking for, which is why I chose the school that I did for my kids. So you go online, you can see all of the schools in the New Orleans public school system. Do your research, find out which ones call your name. I will probably make videos after this going over individual schools, but right now I'm just going to go over the whole process. So you have to go through the entire process of registering your child. So you obviously, you fill in all of your information, you fill in just like a normal application for school. And I guess if you're entering kindergarten, you've never done this before, but it's basic information about their household, where you live, what grade they're in, what languages they speak, obviously personal information like birthdays and socials and addresses and all of this kind of stuff. And you do have to provide proof that you live in the area for the New Orleans system. You have to live in the parish, and I guess if you're moving here you're not quite here yet, I am assuming that there are routes to go, and I can help you look them up. I just didn't do that before. So you have to go through the registration system just to get your kid in the system, in the website. And then the schools that you are interested in putting in your ranking, you have to rank the schools that you want. You get to choose 5, your top 5. So you have to attend an open house for that school. Some of them are online, most of them are in person. And I highly recommend doing this anyway, because there were a few that I was interested in, and I took the tour and they, kind of went lower on my list. A few of the schools in town, such as Willow, the dual language schools, several of the schools in town have testing requirements. And so when you're looking at these schools, you want to find out. This is the way that I did it. Go to the list on the New Orleans Public School System, and then you go to that particular school's website. They will have supplemental information on what you need, because every school has different requirements. So this is where it gets really confusing. You have to go through it on the New Orleans website, the school website, and then you have to make sure that the schools that you're choosing don't have supplemental forms. A lot of them have certain testing that you have to go through. For the school that my kids went to, it's a dual language. Had they not been coming from an immersion school already, they would have had to test into the language part. So usually the school on its individual website will have a supplemental application part. It's not a big deal. You just want to make sure you don't miss it, so you don't get kicked out of that choice. So you choose the schools that you're interested in, you schedule your tours, and then you go to the website and you create your bracket, basically, and you can choose your top 5 schools, rank them in order. You have to do this for each child that you are requesting or entering into the lottery system. And then the actual lottery does give preference to certain things. They give sibling preference. If your child is already enrolled in that school and you have a younger sibling coming in, they do get preference. For the language schools, if they already speak a language or are transferring from another language school, they get preference, and then sibling preference. So just make sure that when you go to these schools' websites, you read these packages and you see what the preferences are, you see what the testing is, and then if the school you want to get into requires testing, some of them you have to test before, take that test, and then you're allowed to put that in your lottery. Some of them you may win that lottery or get chosen for that school in that lottery, and then you go and take a test, and if you don't meet the requirements, then you're dropped to your next choice. I would not give up if you put a school as your number 1 choice and you don't get in. You can wait, because a lot of times people fall off, they choose another school, and then spots open up. So that's about I think where I should stop for today. It's a lot of information. Like I said, I'm going to put that website in the description of this video. Feel free to check it out, play around. But I will say that New Orleans has so many schools, so many amazing opportunities. This was just public school, and I haven't even talked about any individual schools in our public system, but we have multiple language immersion schools. We have art schools. We have schools that focus on music and creativity. We have Montessori schools, and we have those that can offer a mix with our traditional learning with more creative or whatever. We have some of the highest performing high schools in the nation. We have a really great opportunity here in New Orleans for you and your family. So I would love to answer questions or give more information if I can.